It's Monday, the 23rd of December in the Vendée Globe, the skipper's 43rd day at sea, and the battle for Cape Horn is on. Yoann Richomme and Dalin are going head to head, and they are just separated by 2 nautical miles, with around 400 nautical miles to go to the legendary headland. We bring you updates today from Conrad Colman and also have a great chat with James Harayda, who is an IMOCA skipper himself. We then look at the tracker, the leaderboard, PredictWind routing options for Richomme, and also get updates from Clarisse Cremer and Pip Hare as she makes her way towards Melbourne.
Busy night, swapping the spinnaker for the Jenica, because it's too light for the spinnaker now. But just look at the sunrise. Man, this is beautiful.
This edition of the Vendée Globe was limited to just 40 boats, which meant there were skippers who didn't make the cut and couldn't compete in the race. One is James Harayda of Gentoo sailing team, and I got his thoughts on, first of all, what it's like to miss out, how the battle is unfolding, and being an armchair sailor watching this race, and also his plans for the future. So, James, watching the Vendée Globe and just missing out on being a participant must have been absolutely gutting.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating as well. I mean, I worked for 3 years. If you just include my time in the AMOCA class to be on the start line of the Vendée Globe, that was kind of the main goal. And so to miss out on that was very upsetting. But I'm sure my parents and family are happy that I'm home for Christmas this year, because otherwise I'd be somewhere off in the Southern Ocean at the moment.
So this one, you've been forced to really sit it out and be an armchair sailor, but what an event to follow.
It's been incredible, and I think, not just the racing, but also just the number of people that have been following it this year, and the crowds at the start line were incredible. I've never seen anything quite like it, and that's been sort of backed up by this amazing race that we've got going on. And throughout the whole fleet, we've got these little battles appearing and reshuffling, and almost every morning that I look at it, there's something exciting going on. And so it's been a really good race to follow, and I think the communications from on the boats have been better as well. Satellite technology is getting better, and so it's enabled us as armchair watchers to get closer to the action and really feel what's happening on board the boat. So I'm very excited to do it in 4 years' time, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Watching this battle at the front, we have got Yoann Richomme and Dalin going head to head, toe to toe, trying to set the Cape Horn record. Who is your bet to get there first?
I've always said from the beginning that I'd like to see Yoann Richomme win. But I think Dalin will probably get to Cape Horn first. He's got a slightly better angle over the next day or so. The angle of the breeze is going to help with Charlie, I think, the most. But shortly after that, there's going to be another reshuffle. The Atlantic, especially the South Atlantic at the moment, it looks quite messy, and there'll be, fronts to get through and big patches of very little wind that they need to fight through as well. So, I think Charlie might get him around Cape Horn, which we'll find out probably this afternoon at some point, I imagine. And then I think pretty shortly after that, it's going to be a reshuffle again. So it'll be exciting. I'll be glued to the tracker all day.
And James, watching this unfold must be giving you a huge number of lessons for the 2028 Vendée Globe.
I've been using this as trying to take the positives from not being there. I've been trying to use it as best I can as a learning opportunity, and I think it's everything from following the weather really closely. So I've been looking at that every few hours, and seeing what the boats are going through, what conditions are expected. The Southern Ocean is a place that, unless you do the Vendée Globe or the ocean race, you never really go down there in an IMOCA 60 in particular, unless you're in them. So that's been really interesting for me as well. It's been really interesting to see what boats have had what issues. And so kind of on the side of my screen every day, I've got a little list of spares that, maybe we hadn't thought of, or that we, have put too much of on board. We created all these lists before this race in the event that we were there. So it's been really interesting to see that. And then also, my optimistic hat on, and what I'm hoping for the, in a year's time, is to be able to shift into a newer boat. So at the moment, Gentoo is originally built in 2007. And our ambition is to move into a newer, more fully foiling boat. And so having a really good look at what boats are doing well and in what conditions, and which skippers look the most comfortable as well. Because, as we've all seen, that's increasingly more important, is to look after the person on board. So yeah, it's been a good learning opportunity.
Well, James, many thanks for your input, and let's hope that we can catch up again to see how things are developing in the Atlantic, and have a great Christmas.
I'm sure we will. And thanks very much for having me. Have a good Christmas.
Looking at the two leaders at 0600 hours, we can see that Charlie Dalin has really caught up to Yoann Richomme, and they have under 400 nautical miles to reach the legendary Cape Horn. As to who's going to get there first, we just don't know yet. And you can see there Seb Simon in third place is now 441 miles behind the leader. Moving on to the group between 4th and 11th place, Thomas Rouillon has built out a little bit of a lead on Jeremy Bayou, but the group between 5th and 10th place now, only 170 nautical miles separating them, with Justine Metro in 11th place, just a little bit further back. We can see Clarisse Cremer and Sam Davies just making their way across, still in that light wind. And we get an update from Clarisse about the situation and how she's coming to terms with that. And you can see the leading daggerboard boat is Jean Le Cam, who is in 18th place. And then just entering the Pacific at the moment is Conrad Colman. And also we can see just here Pip Hare, who we'll hear from later, on her slow boat to Melbourne with the dismasted rig, and we'll see how she's getting on. The ranking there shows us that Charlie Dalin has had a higher average speed by a knot and a half than Yoann Richomme over the last 24 hours, and is going slightly quicker and is just 2 nautical miles behind Richomme. So this battle for Cape Horn is incredibly intense. We reckon at these speeds that they'll be reaching Cape Horn in around 18 hours, but PredictWind should be able to show us a bit more. SailWorld.com's New Zealand editor Richard Gladwell has done PredictWind routing options for Yoann Richomme, and it shows him rounding at about 2300 hours UTC. It is in the South Atlantic that things become seriously complicated, and it looks like this could put the overall race record in jeopardy, which was set in the 2016-17 edition at 74 days, 3 hours and 36 minutes. It is looking so difficult with upwinds, light winds and various other systems that they're going to have to battle through. As to whether the chasing pack can catch, they look like they're also going to have light winds at times. So the leading pair should stay out in front, but that race record could be out.
I'm trying to take a step back, and the way Sam does it, it's not the end of the world. It could be way worse. It's just that you are so much driven by competition that when the competition doesn't go so well, of course it takes a while to just settle down and to monitor your expectations and what you're being driven by. So I think I'm just motivated by the Vendée Globe. I'm just happy to be here, and I'm just happy to make my boat move. Of course, I'm motivated by people. I do, when I'm not feeling so well, I do think of people who are outside of the team, the sponsors, the public, but it's not really such a big motivation for me. Maybe it's a bit selfish, but I need to do things for me, otherwise it doesn't make sense to be here. So I'm happy that it makes sense to be here. So I'm not sure I'm very clear, but I think it's the same as Sam. I mean, you have to take a step back and realize how lucky you are to be here, and all the things that could be way more wrong. So I'm trying not to complain too much. I hope you don't feel like I'm complaining too much. But it is true that I feel like I haven't been given the lucky cards. How are the next few days going to be? I should be having more winds by tomorrow, have more waves also, so be a bit more back in what the Southern Ocean weather could look like, with the Yankee up and 2 reefs and all the nice squalls, and because it will be I will be at the I don't know how to say that in English, but dans la traîne, behind the front, the north of a low pressure, and so it will be quite unstable. It should be quite unstable wind and quite rough sea state. So the way to Cape Horn is doesn't look very nice. We'll have to go quite more north than the group ahead of us. Once more, we are not being so lucky. Yeah, probably around 300 miles north, more north than what they do. So a bit of a longer route. That's how it is. And but the Cape Horn is a bit too far away. If I'm lucky, I should be able to cross Cape Horn on the 1st of January. That would be a very nice present for the new year coming. But I'm trying not to be too optimistic. I'm just focusing on the next few hours and days. How do I feel physically after 6 weeks? I think I am tired. That's not very surprising. It's just that it's a fatigue that is really. You don't think about it all the time. You're not like, oh, I'm so tired after, when you haven't slept for a night, when you're on the land and you just need to go to bed. It's not exactly the same kind of fatigue. It's something more deep, I would say, more part of who you are and of your nature. I'm trying to sleep enough. I'm trying to do things correctly for me. And sometimes if I have to slow down because I have to sleep, I just do it because I know I have just a given amount of energy and I'm trying to last long. But overall, I'd say I'm okay. Physically, I feel okay. I had a few elbow and right arm issue since the start of the race, and it seems to be going better. So I'm quite happy because it was scaring me at some point because it was getting worse and worse, and at the moment it's much better. So that's a good thing.
Good morning and welcome on board the slow boat to Melbourne. It's a week since I dismasted. A week. Can you believe that? We have sailed 374 miles and there are 410 miles left to Melbourne. And that means that yesterday we did 94 miles. We nearly broke 100 miles. So as we expected, the front passed over last night and I've now got these southwesterlies with some big old waves coming up behind me. But the good news is that the pooping, the waves coming into the cockpit is a lot better now I moved that weight forward. But when they do break in the cockpit, they really do. It's like a tsunami advancing towards the door. So in other good news, since the update yesterday, I've had 2 subsequent weather forecasts, both of which are nothing like that scary one we had yesterday. But it's the weather, it can change, so we've just got to keep an eye on it. Exciting times this morning. I hit a new top speed in the slow boat. 7 knots, 7 knots, 7 knots. Come on. 7.3, 7.4. Yes. So I said today I was going to share with you some of the footage from my dismasting and just talk a little bit about how I assembled this jury rig in the first place. The first action when the rig came down was just to make the hull safe. So I went and got a hacksaw and some gloves and basically slowly started to cut everything off that was still attached to the boat with the aim of just saving as much as I could. In the end, all I was able to save was the boom, the furlers and one outrigger, as the rest of it was all still attached to the mast, which was rapidly sinking down the side of the boat. It's a mess. I need to sort it out. So that's what I'm doing. Everything free. So the only thing I've got left now is the boom One of the challenges was how to get the foot of the outrigger to stay in one place. Originally I thought it would go just behind the mast step on that metal ring there, and that's where I was aiming for. I'd got all the stays in place at the top, 2 back stays and a forestay. And then to hoist it, I just needed the bottom of the outrigger to stay put. So I attached a jib downline to it that I could pull down, and I wrapped it in a neoprene balaclava to stop it from sliding around. On the foredeck, I just attached a snatch block and used my spinnaker downline snuffer, which goes already that kind of leads back to the cockpit down that tunnel there, so I knew that I could control that from the cockpit. You might just be able to make out there a blue carabiner, so I attached that with a loop to the top of the outrigger, and that's basically what my halyards are going through. That's their turning block. It took a bit of organisation to try and get the foot in place, but it's working. It's actually working. After that initial 3 hours of activity, we've kind of keep evolving to this, which so far is doing it okay, but I do look at absolutely everything several times a day. I go and inspect all the fittings, and in particular where that outrigger is sitting on the deck. 2 days time it's Christmas Eve, and I think I'm going to be becalmed for at least some of the day then. So if the swell is not too bad, then my intention is to actually take the mast down and just inspect all of the elements. I've thought of a way I want to redo my backstays to free up the winches, and just make sure that when that final blow comes in to send us to Melbourne, that everything is as good as it could be, and we don't have any more issues. But for now, I'm just going to sit out here for a bit and enjoy the might and the power of the Southern Ocean, albeit slowly.
Thank you for watching today. We will continue to bring you the latest news throughout the Christmas period, as well as the Rolex Sydney Hobart race, which is starting on Boxing Day. Please do subscribe to our channel using the button down here, and also take a look at sailworld.com and yachtsandyachting.com for all the latest news in sailing.